Hey, welcome back to the Cardano Minute. My name is Tony, and we're about to break away for an important announcement from our fearless leader, Charles Hoskinson. Take it away, Charles.
This to talk about decentralized social media. And really, what you have to do when you think about a model like that is you have to ask, well, what is productive? Okay, so I like special purpose social networks like a voting network or a network for science or a network, for example, like Stack Exchange for the curation and development of code and asking questions and Q&A systems because you have a purpose for being there, and there are things that are on topic versus things that are off topic. The challenge with general purpose social media is that nothing is off limits and everybody's there and everybody's interacting, and there's a blending of your social life with your family life, with your religious life, with your work life, and it's not really clear where all those boundaries are. And then people come in, they try to curate it, and it's just not working well for anyone. And so it's one of the things that society has gotten to where we're having difficulty. And what's happening is that instead of these networks elevating us, increasing our collective empathy and wisdom, these networks giving us access to more and better information, it's actually causing us to get more divided. It's reducing our empathy for people and tolerance of people. It's making us behave in ways that we would never behave if we were talking to a person in person to their face. And overall, what's happening is we're seeing a grand radicalization of people throughout society. Okay? And it's gotten to the point where we're not listening to each other anymore. We're prejudging people very rapidly. We're taking very shallow appraisals. We create strawman parodies of those things and people we don't like, and then we attack them, and we live in different realities. I blame social media for this, and I blame the algorithms that guide it, and I blame broken incentive models for that. So it's not good enough just to say, let's build something decentralized. Because let's say you do that and you don't have the right social dynamics, the right tools for discussion, the right ability to promote information flows and curate information and things to de-radicalize people. What you're going to end up doing is just creating echo chambers. So you'll end up having lots of these little social networks, and each and every one of them will have a particular opinion. It just so happens that Twitter is an example of that. It's a very left-leaning social network, and it is populated by the elites of society, the media, Fortune 500 companies, politicians, and it's an echo chamber. So everything in trending is anti-Republican and anti-right. There's really nothing there on a day-to-day basis when I go, in my experience, reading these things that has anything positive to say about anything other than a particular political philosophy. So you can type in any right-leaning person, regardless of who they are. They can win a Nobel Prize. They can cure cancer. If they happen to not have the right politics, there's just going to be an echo chamber of 50,000, 60,000 tweets saying how horrible they are as a human being and a person. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. So it makes no sense at all to attempt to create a decentralized social network unless you solve the bigger problem of how do you de-radicalize people and promote effective communication and collective empathy amongst people. That's where you start. And it doesn't matter if the platform's centralized or decentralized. Decentralization reinforces resilience and prevents censorship, but it in no way gives you utility or social benefit to any of these things. Okay? All it does is just prevent you from being deplatformed, but there's no use to the network if the network just talks about one thing. It would be beautiful is for any event I could get in one place a diverse set of opinions, well balanced, with consensus on the facts and circumstances of the event. We can't get that anymore. If someone gets shot by the police in the United States, how that is going to be reported has nothing to do with the facts and circumstances and everything to do with who that person is, and what group they belong to. That's the reality that we live in. Where it happened, the politics and these types of things, everything gets interpreted one way or the other. I would love to have objective reality where an event happens, and before we talk about opinion, before we talk about how to analyze this and talk about how society's so horrible, we can just get a baseline of what actually happened. And what do we know for certainty? What is the difference between objective reality and subjective opinion? We don't get that anymore in mass media. Everything is through a lens in a spectrum. My industry is a great example of that. For over 12 years, we've had to endure relentless media criticism of cryptocurrencies. I remember the early days of Bitcoin. Any mention of Bitcoin had to be followed by used for drugs, terrorism, child pornography, the purchase of illegal goods. You could go to every article written about Bitcoin from 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012 by mainstream media, and it had to include at least a tacit acknowledgement that that's the primary use case of our industry. We're a $1 trillion industry that now central banks are taking reserves in, and many of the wealthiest people in the world hold, and is fundamentally changing the way that the world financial systems work. But in the beginning, for years, all of us in the Bitcoin movement had to live with the association that any time Bitcoin was mentioned, we were either condoning child pornography, condoning weapons dealing, condoning drug trafficking, or some other nefarious activity.